Hey guys, happy Tuesday. Okay, so tomorrow is your quiz, and you will have a couple of days to take your quiz. So we're planning on Wednesday and Thursday. So when you get it tomorrow, just make sure you take your time. But today, this little video is going to be a little bit longer because I want to review the study guide questions and the questions that you did yesterday in order to prepare you for the quiz. So we're going to look at why certain answers are right and why certain answers are wrong. So today you are going to need the sheet that you worked on yesterday, just the comprehension side, and you're also going to need the practice quiz that's on your study guide. If for some reason you don't have those two sheets with you, just watch the video and follow along. It would help though to correct your answers on those sheets so that you can study them tonight. Okay, let's start with the comprehension activity from yesterday. Um, First of all, what was each inventor most curious about? It is super important that you do not mix up Thomas and Henry. Okay, so make sure that your answers on your page are the same as mine. All right, here we go. So Thomas was most curious about electricity. And on the cover of the story, you can see Thomas over here, and he has light bulbs in his head. And then over here, Henry has gears because Henry was most interested or most curious about engines. You can also find that information on the first few pages of the story. So don't get those two mixed up tomorrow. All right, next question. How would you describe the relationship between Thomas and Henry? So we know that in the story, they really did not talk until the very end. But Henry kept thinking about Thomas and how impressive he was and how he had patented all of these inventions. And he kept saying to himself, how does Thomas do it? And then when he finally did get to meet him at the end, he was just in awe, and they sat and talked, and he realized that he had been thinking kind of the same way that Thomas had been thinking all his life too. So we could really say that Henry admired Thomas and his inventions because Henry wanted to know what his secret was the whole time, right? You could also say that Henry revered, there's our vocabulary word, he revered Thomas and his inventions. Another way of saying that is Henry looked up to Thomas and his ability to create successful inventions, is really what that should say. But any one of these three answers is totally fine. You just need to understand that Henry admired Thomas. Henry looked up to him. He thought that he was pretty amazing because he created and patented several hundreds of inventions, really, that were successful. So he looked up to him. He admired him. All right, next question. What was Thomas's big secret? So this whole time, Henry is just like, what is this man's secret? I've got to know. Well, the whole time, Thomas's big secret was keep at it. In other words, even when things get challenging, never give up. Thomas's big secret is that he never gave up. Anytime he was faced with a challenge, he kept on testing his experiments. He would change things, he would modify things, but he never gave up. So that was his big secret. All right, next. How do you know Henry knew Thomas's secret all along? Now, this is a good question. This is kind of vague. How do we know that Henry knew Thomas's secret? So when they sat down to talk, Thomas, he listened to him. They went over ideas, and then Thomas banged his fist on the table and said, keep at it. So how do I know that was, that Henry knew his secret all along? Well, all along, Henry asked himself the same questions that Thomas had asked himself when he was younger. Okay, as he was growing and as he was experimenting and as he was doing, inventing all these things, he asked all the same questions. Okay, like, why is this working? Why is this not working? How could I change this in order to make it work? All of these questions were to get him to keep going, to not give up. Okay, and then lastly, number 5, try to summarize the entire story in one sentence below. Now, I don't know how well you did with this, But basically, when you summarize a story, you need to definitely include character names and what the problem was, maybe what the solution was, and Ruby saying hello. All right, so here's what I got for this answer. Summarize the entire story in one sentence below. I got Henry is a hardworking inventor who looks to Thomas for the key to success. You could have had anything like this. Henry looks to Thomas for the key to success. Henry works on his inventions and keeps failing, although I'm sure some of them worked out, but he looked to Thomas for the key to success. Really, Henry is a hardworking inventor who looks to Thomas for the key to success. That's a great way to just sum up the entire thing. Okay, now those are the answers to 1 through 5 on that sheet. Remember, you could pause the video at any time and make sure that you have the right answers. So be sure that you're writing down the right answers. I don't care if you erase, you can just cross out on the sheet and write the right answer underneath. You don't have to erase, but that is the review for the comprehension questions. Now let's move on to the quiz, the practice quiz review. Okay. The very first question says, from what point of view is the article written? Now, when we did point of view, we talked about first person point of view versus third person point of view. You could tell right away from this paragraph, it's one of the first paragraphs, if not the first paragraph of the story. I can't remember. But it says, for scientist Jeff Chew, I'm going to go to present mode for this so that I can show you some things. All right, here's my pen. Okay, whenever you see characters or important people's names like this, okay, in the narration, it usually is third person. You're also looking for third person pronouns like he and she and they and it. Okay, so here we have an important person's name, and then it says his solar observers, not my. And then it says Jeff is hoping that if his, that's right, that his panels are sensitive enough, anything hot, we see he says. Okay, so all of these third person pronouns are happening in the narration. The dialogue starts right here where the quotation marks are, okay? And as you can see, it says there are a lot of hot things we encounter every day. Yes, that we is a first person pronoun, but it is inside the dialogue. It's inside the quotation mark, so it does not count. In the narration, which is all of this here, not inside of the quotation marks, we see his name and we see the pronouns, the third person pronouns, he and his. So we know that this is being told from a third person point of view, narrator, which is also called an outside observer. So you should have chosen C. When the narrator is not a character in the story, they are considered an outside observer. Also, because the article is written in third person point of view, it is said to have an outside observer as the narrator. So the point of view the article is written in is, from what point of view? It's an outside observer's point of view. Okay, next, I gotta turn my, next, let's go to this one, if it'll move. Well, guys, sorry, here we go. All right, I'm going to go to present again. Okay, the next one is a context clue problem. And remember, we talked about synonyms and antonyms, looking for synonyms and antonyms around the underlined word in order to figure out the meaning of the underlined word. So it says, read the sentences from paragraph 2. Most electricity is generated by machines that are run by steam. Making a lot of steam is the hard part. So I have to look all around this word, and I see that the subheading says, where does electricity come from? Okay, so come from must mean something similar to generated. And a word that means the same thing as come from, as the phrase come from, would be produced. Pushed is not similar to come from. Closed is not similar to come from. Destroyed is not similar to come from. But produced is similar. So we would say that generated means produce. And the question says, where does it come from? Well, electricity comes from or is generated by machines that are run by steam. So in this case, we have a synonym around the underlined word that helps us to figure out what the underlined word means. Okay? All right, so look for in your quiz words around the underlined word or the bolded word that might mean the same thing or that might mean the opposite so that you can figure out what that underlined word means. Okay, next, let's go here. All right, for this one, it said, what is the author's main purpose? Okay, so I'm not going to read the whole thing. Obviously, it's a longer text, but you could find the answer in these two paragraphs. It talks about how Jeff had been working on how to get better solar power. He talked about what solar power was, and he talked about how he was working on new ways to convert solar energy into electricity. So when we talk about author's purpose, remember, we're talking about either to inform, persuade, or entertain the reader about something specific. And you have to be specific in your answer. Well, the answer choices already give you specificity. So I ask myself, is the whole purpose of Jeff and his absorber turning into electricity, using renewable resources, is that to persuade people to use more electricity? No, absolutely not. Is it to tell an entertaining story about electricity? Well, no. I mean, if the electricity had somehow turned into a main character and started dancing around, maybe that would be entertaining. Was it to describe the life of an important scientist? This does not describe Jeff's life. This talks about Jeff and how he created an absorber in order to produce electricity. And the absorber is a renewable resource, meaning that he doesn't use non-renewable resources in order to produce electricity. So this whole passage, the purpose of the passage, the purpose or the author's main purpose was to tell about the results of a discovery. Jeff made an absorber, which is a new way to produce electricity. The other choices are just not true. So make sure that you do process of elimination tomorrow on your quiz. Take out, it's called slash the trash. Take out the ones that you know are not true. Okay? All right, next. All right, why does the author include the details in paragraph 8 about solar power? Now, your choices were to help readers understand how scientists in general work, B, to show the difference between renewable and non-renewable energy sources, C, to explain the definition of converting, or D, to support the idea that electricity is fascinating. Okay, well, first of all, I know for a fact that it's not to explain the definition of converting. It uses the word converting, but it's not, the purpose of this paragraph is not to help me understand what it means. Also, the purpose of this paragraph is not to help me understand how scientists work. Scientists in general, it would say scientists, not Jeff. We're looking at a specific scientist. So I'm left with B and D. Well, D says to support that electricity is fascinating. Well, fascinating means interesting. This is not telling me about electricity being interesting. This says converting the light we get from the sun into usable electricity. You can feel the energy yourself. The sun feels hot on your skin because it is exerting energy. Solar power is different from oil, gas, or coal because it is what is called renewable energy. Solar power is renewable energy. This means that its source is not consumed when we use the energy, as happens with gas, for instance, which burns away. This is definitely trying to show me the difference between renewable and non-renewable energy sources. It explains how solar power works and how it is different from other electricity sources like oil, gas, or coal. Okay, so you should be able to look at a paragraph and tell me what the author is trying to tell me with those specific details. Hopefully you got this one right because the other ones just don't make sense. And again, while electricity is interesting or fascinating, that is not the purpose of this part of the text. Okay, now, number 5 says, read the sentence from paragraph 8. You can feel this energy yourself. The sun feels hot on your skin because it is exerting energy. Now, this word has the prefix we worked on, EX. And EX means to go out from or away from something. So knowing the meaning of EX, the logical choice is B, go out of, okay? The sun feels hot on your skin because there is energy going out of it. The sun would not feel hot on our skin if it was taking energy in, it would feel cool, okay? So more than anything, because E and EX mean out of, from, or away, I know that the best choice is to go out of, okay. All right, number 6. Now on your study guide, I put this answer on the left, but if we use our, oh, look at my little thing still there, sorry. But if we use our model that I get, our little map, and there should be an arrow right here, I would know that I have to find a discovery that leads to a surprise. In Jeff's case, a discovery that he made had to do with special materials that absorb heat and turn it into electricity. And the surprise was that he found a new way to produce electricity with renewable resources. So really, you could say this over here, Jeff discovered how to use special materials that absorb heat and turn it into electricity. This led to the surprise of finding new ways to produce electricity with renewable resources. One thing I want to point out here is that in my answer, I use the word discovered and I use the word surprise. Oops. All right, so tomorrow I really want you guys to focus on the discovery and the surprise. And hint, hint, tomorrow in your passage, you will actually see the word surprise. Oh, I should have used my finger up both times. I should use the mouse. Okay. And there should be an arrow right here. So map it out. Find the surprise in the text. Find the discovery. Map it out. Write down the discovery that led to the surprise. Okay. All right. Next. All right. Number 7. It says, which sentence from the article best represents the main theme? I'm almost finished. Sorry, guys. Children are hanging out with me. Okay. Which sentence from the article best represents the main theme? Now, remember, you have to figure out the theme first. Well, I know that this whole article is about how Jeff is trying to use renewable resources in order to produce electricity rather than using up non-renewable resources in order to produce electricity. So he's trying to make the world a better place. Okay, so a good theme for this might be, find new ways to make the world a better place, or always look for ways to make the world a better place. The obvious choice here is that the detail from the article is he is helping to make the world a cleaner and better place through his solar panels. Solar power being different from oil, gas, or coal because it's called renewable energy doesn't go with my theme, always look for ways to make the world a better place. Jeff is at MIT working as a researcher on electricity, definitely doesn't support that theme. And Jeff saying that experiments are the heart of science does not support finding ways to make the world a better place. The one sentence the one detail from the story that does support it is he is helping to make the world a cleaner and better place through his solar panels. Okay, so when you get to this type of question on your quiz, make sure you figure out the theme first, and then look for the statement that best supports the theme that you came up with. All right, that was a long one, and I'm sorry about that, but review days are always a little bit longer because I want to make sense of the questions and I want to make sense of why certain answers are the best answers. Okay, so what I'd like for you to do now is go back to any part of the video that may not have made sense to you and make sure that you review and that you understand why I got the answers to certain questions. After you're finished, I want you to try the vocabulary game one more time. I know I have made you play that vocabulary game for days, but it's going to help you with the vocabulary section on your quiz tomorrow. After you finish the vocabulary quiz, again, you may go back and finish any work that you have not finished yet. You may read a book on EPIC, or you may finish work for another class. But I want you to come back to this video if you need to review for the quiz again tonight. Otherwise, good luck tomorrow. Remember, you're starting tomorrow. and we will finish it on Thursday, and I will see you on Thursday so I can help you as needed. Okay, guys, I'll see you soon. Bye.